Thank you very much. I know we have an hour of time, so hopefully you are ready to have a little bit of fun with me. A little bit about my background. I have been blessed to have created an organization with so many individuals. It started in Arizona, a statewide grant that I wrote back in 1996. I had just left active duty military for about 12 years, and then I worked for a Head Start program in rural part of Arizona. And anyways, the programs we created, one was a young fathers program, one was for mothers, then there were some other ones in child welfare, a plethora of them. And it turned into a coalition. The coalition was then Arizona Fathers and Families Coalition. And in a meeting, I had a colleague of mine, George Henderson, and he said, "You don't want to call it Arizona Fathers and Families Coalition." And I whispered to him, I said, "George, one day we're going to be global." And he laughed at me, and we have been over the last several years. And what I meant by that was that the fragility of all of us, moms and dads, we're all someone's son or someone's daughter, regardless if we become parents or like I was listening to Gail, how she's ushering in and being part of her first grandchild. So she's going to another dimension of her life. And all of us have this opportunity, but some of us have generations before us that just weren't healthy. And some of us lived in unhealthy generations. And I felt like we would always keep building and building and building. So today you're going to get a little bit of few trainings that we do. We've worked with SAMHSA, we've worked with the National Mental Health State Project Directors, veterans programs. Because I'm a clinical social worker, everything that I've tried to do, I've always lined up with my field, the Council of Social Work Education. And I've been blessed to be a professor and teach at different places. And I was sharing with Gail, I love teaching more than leading. And if I could, that's why I'm hiring someone to take over my position. All I could do is teach. That'd be better than being the executive over an organization. So today, what we're going to talk about is purpose, meaning, and value. Purpose, meaning, and value. And in a second, I'm going to share in the chat a few things for us to do because it's going to be interactive. It's not just going to be me here. Because I would love to see what Imani Miller looks like and Janisa Colon, because they just stay this beautiful frame. They don't even move. They're so awesome. I don't know how they could keep themselves like that. But I want us to go ahead and have fun. And we're going to take it's not just Janice Colon. It's a bunch of people. All right. Where you all at? Hopefully you're in my hometown, the Boogie Down Bronx.
Boogie Down Bronx, Boogie Down Queens.
All right. So I feel good because you know what? I am Boricua. So you're going to get a bit of flavor of that. Imagine a Boricua from the Bronx who lectured at Harvard University. That's coming out of adversity as well. I didn't have a great life, but I've had a beautiful life, if that makes sense. And when you work with fathers, always think about they're someone's son. And before I get going, I love my son, Antonio. He's my junior. He's James Antonio Ernesto Rodriguez. You can send him something at 1252 West McNair Street. But I've met a lot of sons and daughters that are homeless, and it breaks my heart because I know for a fact that there had to be a mom and a dad who loved them. There has to be someone like Gail, a grandmother, that just is on the inside wondering what's wrong with and where they're at. And so some can get through adversity, and some of us have gone through a lot of adversity, and that's called resilience. And also, there are so many of us who have not. And I know that for a fact as well. And there's so many of us that are stuck in intergenerational, you could call them curses, you could call them whatever. But each one of us impacts at least 6 generations ahead of us. And if you were taking my class, I would say, how many generations do you impact? And the answer is 7. 7. But that meant 7 generations before you were born, they impacted you and all these branches of our family life. And in this picture, on my left, hopefully it's on your left, there's this beautiful woman in this art form, and it's called kintsugi. And kintsugi is this beautiful art form about healing. And that no matter how broken individuals are, once you find your meaning, which is ethos, your values, you can feel the cracks of your pain through different things. And in the art form, and I'll give a link on our website because I teach it. And if you ever want to get a hold of me, I'll give you how to get in touch with me on the end. I'll teach you how to teach it as well. Very simple, even with a picture that people cut up. But the concept is, even if we're broken, we can fill our cracks with different things. Like it could be a lot of men or a lot of women. It could be drugs. I have a cousin that has not moved from 104th on Columbus. They live in the same projects that I once lived as a little baby, and they've never moved. 4 generations in the same project. They went from the 4th floor to the 6th floor to the 9th floor. That's it. And so I know some of you know people like that. But then you see the other people that were born out of adversity, but then they have excelled and do so much. And what is it about them? And I am here to say, I think there are 3 elements that you can give everyone. Number 1, it's going to sound corny, hope, joy, and optimism. And so today you're going to take a scale, and one of them is going to be a hope scale, a optimism scale, and happiness. And happiness is not just because of one event, it's a continuous. And when you have people that are in your life that bring you happiness and then you give it to others, then it pours into meaning. So in my class, I use this philosophy, and I invite you to write it down. So hopefully you got something to write down, because we're going to do a little bit of work if you're okay with that. What's the meaning of your life? If I call on you randomly right now and I said to Latrice Parr, what is the meaning of your life? What is your purpose? What do you wake up for?
To help people overcome their adversities. My passion and my purpose is one and the same.
Awesome. And so there's this philosophy called Ikigai, Ikigai. It's 2 words. It's a Japanese word. And what it means is life, but even deeper than life. I know that sounds funny, right? Like, how can life be even deeper? But it's your purpose, your passion. She just said it. Her passion and her purpose. So when she's living in her Ikigai, that's probably her best times of her life. Her best time. If she has 7 days out of the week, and maybe 2 of them are like, nah, not that great, but maybe on 3, she puts a smile on someone's face. Those 3 days outweigh the other 4, because that is her highest peak of her living in her Ikigai, and for all of us. So how do we do that? How do we go into circumstances that help us grow so that we can live a legacy of purpose and alignment? How do we help people live their life and their legacy, looking at the past, the present, and the future? What traps people so much, and I want to, maybe you could put emojis or whatever, or disagree with me, and that's fine. But I think people, and this is just me because I'm about to revolve around the sun for the 60th time, I think the past traps us from leading our legacy. So let me give you a couple of words today, because a friend of mine, someone who I truly care about and love, her brother died last night, early in the morning today. And she blaming herself for not going to Texas. And I had to pour into her right before today's session. And I said, take blame whether you have blame towards yourself or you blame others, because I don't know about you, I blamed myself for a lot of stuff and I've blamed others. Flip it around and change the wording to gratefulness. On the other end, when you doubted yourself because you doubted that you didn't go to Texas, flip it around and use another word, blessed. When you take gratefulness and blessed, it brings you into the present. It has a connection of the past, but you are not stuck there where a lot of people find themselves and they can't find their core purpose of their heart. There is a Japanese philosophy, it's called Ishigo Ishie, I-C-H-I-G-O, and the second word is Ishie, I-C-H-I-E. And in this philosophy, it talks about emotions and time. You know, we talk about emotional intelligence. What is that? There's only one quotient that we can increase. Your intellectual quotient is exactly what it is. Whatever you were born with, that's it. And that's okay because that's how you were created. But there's an adaptability quotient, which helps you get through adversity. And some people don't have that AQ, which is a different one. But EQ, emotional quotient, is based upon where we take all of our emotions at. And I joke that I've got the perfect head for class because I got a bald head. All of our emotions is right here in the back of our head, no bigger than a walnut. I know we say it's here in our heart, but it's really here. And what we think about ourselves and what we think about our past, by the time it gets here to our reasoning, and man, this is hopefully the men don't feel bad about what I'm saying. We don't reason as well cognitively overall as women do. Because as we grow up, we don't socialize from childhood throughout adulthood. We don't have networking skills that women get as girls. And so because of that, our ability to process, it's a little harder. But when we do start to think about how we can transform ourselves, then if we think a moment and we reflect on what we love, what we're good at, what the world needs, we can get through adversity. And when we get stuck, like my friend, I told her a couple of words, and it comes from Ichigo Ishii, and hopefully you can use it with people you work with or yourself. I use it all the time. I use it when I'm going through hard times. I went in the military at 17, and it's not natural for a teenager to have seen death so much because of my job in the military. Up front and close, feeling the compression and the loss of life, hands-on an individual trying to save their lives. When I go to what's called, I call it my dark place. I don't know if any of you got a dark place. I'm going to ask questions that are rhetorical. You don't have to say it. Or when you maybe think of past relationship or situationship or whatever the hardship is, meet yourself there and ask that question. How did hardship shift my path? How did it change my life? For some, for maybe like Latrice, it propelled her to help others. For others, you know, they just struggle, and they struggle every day. And for some of you who are highly empathetic, that even you take it in when you're working with others, and that becomes vicarious trauma. So then you're stuck, and you get stuck in these elements. And so there's two things that you can bring people to the present, especially past. Two words: come back, wake up. Come back, wake up. Every time James is struggling with his past, I got to tell myself, come back, wake up. Come back, wake up. I don't fear the future that much, but whenever an individual is worried about the future, tell them, come back. It seems kind of like that can't work, but it's so simple and so true because it keeps your emotions in time, and the time that you only have is now. We're never going to get back this moment. I'm never going to get to meet Gail's husband virtually over the internet. I'm never going to be able to say congratulations to her and him on their journey. I'm never going to get that. And even if you think by looking at a photo of the past, you can't, it's just a connection. But you can tell yourself, come back, wake up, so that in the moment, you can press through. And in the moment, you can find your meaning. And that's what Viktor Frankl, if you ever want to work with individuals, he uses something called logotherapy. And I taught this class in depth, and it's 15 modules, and it's like many hours. And one of the social workers said to me, James, I wish I learned this when I was getting my PhD. No one ever taught about logotherapy. But meaning and purpose, when you do that, it helps an individual go forward. Because you could look at your past struggles and you could say, come back, wake up. And you can learn from it. I got a dry sense of humor. And if you were here, I'd say there's this singer, his name is Wale. He's an R&B singer. Anyone know who Wale is? You can put a little emoji up if you do. But in this hook line, he says, ex-lovers are like scars. They don't hurt anymore, but you don't forget how you got it. That's trauma. Sometimes it hurts so bad here that, as I said, your emotions just don't let you come forward to the future. So it's almost as if you're cutting yourself over and over and over again. And when you're working with individuals, you look at the strengths that came from the pain. This little reflective question is something that we skirt around because we don't want to deal with the pain for a lot of people who are in the helping professions, because it brings us back to us. And you could say, okay, maybe all that pain I had to go through had a purpose. I didn't like it in the moment. Now, if I continue doing it, and I continue in doing it, then I'm continuous in this habit. It's a cycle. And we're going to talk about trauma bonding, but it's like being on a Ferris wheel. And if anyone's ever gone on a Ferris wheel, one of the funny things is, because I went to one in Long Beach this summer, and Long Beach, California, and you're stuck at 11 o'clock and your feet are just dangling, you're swinging your feet, you're in the thing, and it takes forever for you to get down to 6 o'clock to get off. That's what cycle of trauma is like. It's like you're dangling and it takes forever for you just to get off. But then all of a sudden you get back on the Ferris wheel and you go back through it all over again. And now you're stuck maybe at 9 on the clock or 2. And you know that you should get off, but you just keep going on it. And that's what happens to a lot of individuals. So when we align our purpose with meaning, then we can get through adversity and we write a new story of ourselves. I usually ask, and I think you're going to get this, so you can use this PowerPoint. I ask people, if we were taking, we had more time, I'd ask all of us to right now maybe think about and go into small breakout rooms. What's all the struggles that you've gone through, but the joys? What's the strengths and your areas that you know that you could increase your meaning for? And when you reflect on it, I have a beautiful 3 children. My son is the oldest. My youngest daughter wrote me a journal 23 years ago, and I just looked at it for the first time in over a decade for me to write my story for her. And I looked at it the lens of her then as a little girl, as she is now a woman married, and it's different. And then I looked at the legacy that I want to leave, and I said, you know what, God, this is just me, just because I believe in God. Thank you. Because I didn't have a dad. I had a father. I didn't have a dad. And because I vowed to change and write a new story for my life, it wrote a new story for my children. Because my son went in the military like myself. My daughter has an license in Master's in Social Work in LMSW. She said, Dad, I won't waste money like you did to go get a PhD. That's crazy. And my youngest daughter is getting her RN, which was one of my first jobs in the military as a combat medic. And so children are always watching you. Our past is always watching you. Our future is watching us as well. So what kind of story do we want to leave? And I use this time to say, let's write a new story. What's the new story of you? And when you're working with individuals, instead of focusing on the past and when they struggle with that, or when I struggle with that, or you struggle with that, say, no, let's stop, come back, wake up. So these are 5 simple questions. What is your unwritten story of you? And maybe take a second while I read them and jot a couple of notes and say, you know, what is my unwritten story of myself? What is this story going to be, new or restoration? There's a difference. If you're building new versus a restoration, part of the restoration you're keeping because the foundation was good. But if the foundation was not good, then you have to excavate it. So think about it. What's stopping you or stopping individuals when they want to script it? Well, it's called rescripting or cognitive processing. And you're basically working with individuals to show them how they can rescript their lives and rescript the story going forward today. Because I can't rewrite my past, right? I'm 59. I can't go rewrite my story. When I was 18 months in the city of New York, took custody of me until my grandparents came from Puerto Rico to get me. I didn't even know that until I was about to be 17 and join the military. So I can't go back to even 17. I can't go back to any time in life. Neither can any of us here. But what I can do is write my story going forward. And it starts today. If I avoid writing my story, well, you know, that's called avoidance. And some people don't do well. And so they use avoidance instead of going through the ability to go forward. So here's a question. I'm going to look in the chat real quick. Which one would you rather be, the target or the arrow? Just go ahead and put it in there. Target or the arrow. It doesn't matter. You're not wrong for whatever response that you want. Arrow, 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 arrow. Oh, a lot of arrows in here. A lot of arrows. Arrows. Who wants to come off and explain to me why they want to be an arrow? Anyone want to volunteer? Okay, OC, why are you a target? Well, okay, wait, let me go back up. Someone says the target sounds painful. Okay. Anyone want to come off and tell me why they want to be an arrow? All you got to do is unmute yourself and then just go for it. And then anyone want to say why the target?
This is Katie Rogala. I picked Arrow because I always like the journey.
Okay, deep. I like that.
Thank you. Like even in car rides, I enjoy a long car ride. I'm always a little disappointed in getting to the destination. I like that time for reflection and anticipation. So that's why I picked Arrow.
Awesome. I like that. I like that response.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, it's Latrice again. At first I picked target. I picked arrow because I felt like the arrow was the one that was, in control of shooting for the stars. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, if this is, if I take it from a spiritual aspect, I want to be the target because I want God to, I want to receive everything he has coming my way. So at first I said the arrow, but when I thought about it in, in a religious aspect, I want to be the target.
So you want to be the target because God.
Yeah, I want everything he has for me. I want to receive it all.
Awesome.
Add to that, I'm thinking that there are times where, higher power wants us to be both. I think it's important to enjoy the journey, like you said, Dr. James, about like getting present. You had a great statement about getting present, like come back to now. To be grateful for the journey as the arrow. Sometimes we are the target, though. That's us. That makes me think of being of service. As someone with lived experience in recovery, that makes me think of being of service. And also, when you live authentically, the right people are going to come into your life. You'll gravitate towards each other. And that's making me think that. Latrice, you kind of made me think that. So
Awesome. Awesome. C
maybe
Bland.
both.
I don't know if C Bland had their hand up, so I want to honor the emoji factor.
Can you guys hear me good?
Mm-hmm.
I said I want to be the target.
Okay.
The reason why is because, okay, I'm 29 years old, and I say I'm probably the youngest person if at where I work at, and I'm a peer support specialist. So I'm dealing with other people that may have dealt with different things that I have. So if I can be that target for my clients, as far as to shield them, to help them, to make sure they don't, to stop them basically in the path to where they won't have to feel or deal with anything that I've dealt with, I will definitely take all those shots for my clients to make sure that they will be okay.
Okay, let me say a little something. First, let me give you a little this is just for, I know that there's some people in here, but this is for you, Miss Bland. Don't when you get an opportunity, there's finite words and infinite words. So it's just the way where we communicate. So I'm going to give you a could moment. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
You could look at it, you're 29 years old and the youngest one there, but when I left the military and active duty, Dr. Sherry P. Omer allowed me to write grants. And at 29, I had already written over $6 million grants and oversaw 5 programs statewide. And I had people who were older than I am now following me.
Wow.
So that could be you. That's not your story. That's my story. But you could take that and walk in that. Now let's break down. How many of you all have heard this actor? He okay. His name is Matthew McConaughey. Anyone ever heard about him? All right, stop smiling. So he has this book and it's called Green Light. It's a long audible and a long book. And there's a section in it, and I had to do my research. And he talks about these green light moments of life. And he said, which one would you rather be, the target or the arrow? I'm here to say, someone put it in there, the target can move. But the arrow is codependent. The arrow is codependent because even if you look at this graphic design, there's a tip that's put on there. And then there is a plume. I know it doesn't look like feathers. And then there's a back, but it requires someone to pull the string. And when you are the arrow, that means someone has to pull your string for you to get to the destiny that you may never even hit bullseye. But if you're the target, you are the bullseye. However, Miss Bland said that she would take the arrows for other people. And I like that, but some arrows should never penetrate us. Does that make sense? Because we have had some, and I don't want to throw myself underneath the bus, but how many of you know that there's been some unhealthy relationships and unhealthy arrows that hit you? But if you walk around this world and you are the target, that's because you are modeling something that people see in you, and that's what they want to be. And that's called social comparison. And when we break and go forward, we got either 2 or 3 ways we can be looked at in our life. We can be upward or downward, how people look at us. Middle road really doesn't exist that much. So we always take the high road. And by us taking the high road, people want to do that. And when you do that in mental health, then you say, you know what? I understand the purpose of the arrow, but it's always to get to a target. And if I could shift from my seasons of being the arrow to now I'm the target, but I got to also be careful, because if Miss Bland, if you take all the arrows to kind of, I don't want to say protect other people, that's a great factor, but that protective factor that you give yourself away also opens you up to be vulnerable. And in that vulnerability, make sure that the arrows are meant to be good. Now, not everyone's going to hit bullseye, but if you can, then the journey becomes better, because we go through what's called a change, and we go through what's called not only increasing our psychological and our emotional well-being, but there's another one that I teach in my class, and that's called noological. The noological is a word, and it means noose. Just like I mentioned about Ikigai, there's self-transformation, but there's self-transcendence. And when self-transcendence, you go deeper. And I'm not going to teach all of our class stuff that we do, because I'm going to have you do a little survey in a moment, and I got to be conscious of time. So I'm going to go through this. It impacts how we operate psychologically, and how we operate psychologically is impeded by our emotional wellness, which then is how we behave. So I know when I'm not at my best emotionally, I probably have more negative thoughts about me or about my situation, which then puts me in a funk, or my behaviors are not the greatest, which then I can't live up to my best day. Like Latrice mentioned, her passion or purpose. Those days when I'm not like that, I have to tell myself, come back, wake up. But we all have these styles about us. Like I'm a lion. And if you took the test, I will give it to you later on. Or maybe you're a person that needs to be around people because you're socially engaged. Or maybe you take on the burdens of other individuals and you're steadfast. And I know I'm going through this a little swift because I'm going to have time for us to do something. Or maybe you are the conscientious part of all of us. We have all four of these things in us, but what Viktor Frankl talks about is the freedom of will, the will to meaning and meaning of life. And I don't know how he and these Japanese philosophers at the same time at different places in life all came together on one thing: meaning, purpose, passion. Meaning, purpose, passion. When you can evaluate meaning, purpose, passion, then it helps you to get to a deeper place. It helps you to get to self-transcendence, where you've got your power, where you're going to your best version of you. And whenever you're at your best version of you, that's a great time. Like right now, I'm smiling about a time when I was a kid and I had an unassisted triple play because the ball was hit so shallow and I was running so hard. I caught it in center field, hit second base, and tagged the runner out on first place. But that's just a moment in time, right? That's just a moment. But when we live to be more self-transcendent, then we're working on creating a new behavior. When you're working with individuals, you're working on them, helping them create a new pathway, new habits, new learnings. And by doing that, it goes back to neuroplasticity. Then they see themselves better. That maybe they're no longer sleeping under the stars. Maybe they're helping people who right now are homeless. Maybe they flip the script on everything in their life. And when they flip it, they end up with a greater satisfaction of their life. And so I want to take a moment right now before we get too deep. And I want you to, if we were in my class, I'd volunteer someone. Let me volunteer Gail. Gail, if you're there, if you don't mind, at least coming off mute, mic.
Okay.
That's what happens when you come into a class with Dr. Rose. This philosophy right here is called Kintsugi, Kintsugi. And I mentioned it because I shared one. But if you're working with individuals and you can say this about yourself every day, it becomes a beautiful wake up for you. It's your own mantra. And ordinarily, I'd ask all of us to come off mic, and I'd ask Gail to lead us, but for time, and I'd ask her to do it for 3 times. I'd ask her to lead us to say each one of these: even more beautiful, even more resilient, even more precious, even more present. So Gail, why don't you lead us with your beautiful voice and guide us through this, and just say it 3 times from your heart.
Even more beautiful, even more resilient, even more precious, even
More present.
more, even more present.
One more time.
All righty. Even more beautiful. Oh, now I'm forgetting what I'm supposed to say.
It should be on the screen. Even more.
I'm looking, yeah. Even more beautiful, even more resilient, even more precious, even more present.
Okay, on the third one, I want everyone just to close their eyes where you're at and just say, I am even more beautiful. I am even more resilient. I am even more precious, and I am even more present. And just take a moment and do that. When you wake up with this and you think this through, because I always integrate my own personal life, my baby girl suffers so much from depression and doubt of herself. I would give my life for her to have constant joy and happiness. I don't know if you've ever been a parent with a child who struggles. It sucks. But am I allowed to say it sucks in a professional meeting? Anyways.
I have many times.
Okay. Well, Jazzy has her best friend who used to live here in my home office, not my home office, in my house. And she blames herself because she had a challenge and she had always lived at home. And I told her 2 things could be the same. This has been your home for 19 years. And yes, you want to finally see what it's like to live with your mom. But love is here and love is there. You don't have to choose one or the other. And then because she said, I got to go because mom thinks that my mental health, and because you travel, well, that meant her 2 friends that lived here had to move out. Well, one of her friends, the day after her 20th birthday, an underage drunk driver took her life. And that's 2 years ago, Labor Day weekend. 2 years of blaming herself. 2 years of doubting herself. 2 years of carrying the deep pain. 2 years. And this summer she came to me and I said, Jazzy, you are even more beautiful. You are even more resilient. You are even more precious. And you have to be present. And she said that in this situation, as I go through it, just to give you an example of how you can apply this as a dad to a daughter, or maybe a mom to a son, or yourself, or with others. I said, you want to take this trip to go to San Diego by yourself because you mourn your friend, your sister, and you blame yourself for her death. But the truth being said, if Aaliyah was alive and you had passed away and Aaliyah was carrying so much pain and burden and blame, I'd want to shake her and say, I want you to have a great life. I want you to be happy. I want you to be whole, because that's what you had with my daughter, and that's what you have within yourself. So Jazz, if you go, I'll follow you on this journey, because it was going to be your first time driving by herself, and her mother didn't want her to go. And I said, you're 22 years old. You're a woman. And because you're a woman, you're an adult, I'll follow you. Towards the very end, when we were sitting alone in a moment while she rented her Airbnb and I stayed at another place, she said, Daddy, what are those words I'm supposed to say? Jazzy, don't blame yourself. Be grateful for all the love you had with Aaliyah. Stop doubting yourself. Be blessed with every moment you have going forward, that you can live a beautiful life, more resilient life, more precious life, more present. And as a dad, I left there, and I'm not going to lie, I cried because I wanted my daughter. But if my daughter can use this, then you can use it for other people as well. And when you do that, you're helping them see the greatness within themselves, because then they can have a more fulfilling life, a life that they're not broken up anymore, that the pain is never really going to go away. And I know, because I've lost a son, and maybe some of you have, or you've lost a parent, a best friend. You've seen life, you've been taken advantage of, but gosh darn it, you have even better today than you have yesterday. And that's the truth. And there's nothing that can separate that from you except the voices in your head telling you that you are to blame. The voices in your head telling you to doubt yourself. And that's why a lot of men don't get mental health help, because they're stuck. They're stuck. They're broken. And so when you are working with others, you got to look into your soul. I love how Latrice said it's a spiritual thing for her. I want to stop real quick, and I'm going to give you guys in the chat a couple of minutes to do something, because I want you to have some fun as well. I've got a couple of assessments, and I sent them to you, and we're going to take a couple of them together. I hope this works out well. Oh, no. Let me see. I think I'm doing it wrong. I thought I did it right. I want us to take this survey, and hopefully I must have copied it wrong. I'll put it in the chat. And it's going to take a little bit of time for you. And then we're going to do something called a life skill, a life wheel for you to take home with you. So, all right, so let me kind of share what this means, because it looks like a lot of you are already there. What it is a prompt for you to look at where you're at in your life. Your self-awareness score are your emotional needs. Dr. Kamaya has 7 emotional needs. Your emotional intelligence is based off empathy and composure. So when we have higher empathy, it helps us. There's certain things you can do every single day to increase your emotional intelligence. Here's one quick little tip from James. Every time you go out in the community and you see someone, let's say, well, I boycott Starbucks, but I'll use another one. You go to a restaurant and you see that they have a first name. Instead of addressing the professional that's working to serve you, address them by their name. So you would say Miriam, because you see their name Miriam. When you do that, you're connecting with your own emotions and them as well, because you're increasing empathy. Behavior is integrity and fairness. And grit is the ability to go through perseverance. So whatever your score is, the higher your score is collectively, you'll know. And that there are different ranges for each one. So I give these to you. I think I gave this to you. If not, I'm going to put it in the chat. I know there's a way to do it. I saw it earlier. And when you do this, you can, I think that's how I do it. I don't know. And what you do is you end up, increasing your ability to work with others, because you're increasing your own self. And our identity is impacted by our past. And that's why I said, come back, wake up. So let me reshare where we're at so we can, hopefully you can see what I see. I see So, but when we work with other people, we know that some of them have masking. And that's why, whether it's bonding by relationships or child abuse, or like, how many of you have met great people, but they just couldn't go so far? Or maybe even yourself. You can only give so much of yourself away, because I call it, we got walls. I could be a mason because I got bricks next to me in case I got to start building my wall up really quick. Maybe that's not your story, but that's how I have been in my past. And all it does, it prevents me from having healthy relationships, because it's easy to get caught up in one of these areas of being bonded to trauma. And I'm not just talking about interpersonal or intimate relationships. I've worked with a client that I had to finally let go, because 26 years of marriage and staying in it, even though arm broken, punched walls. But one day I said, I'm curious, where are the holes in the wall? And they were able to describe where they are now. And that means it's a constant daily reminder of abuse, control, dominance in an unhealthy way. So because I know one of my areas that's not my strength, I really don't have a lot of temperament towards abusive men. So I had to refer her to someone else. And then that therapist came back to me, and as we were processing the case, and said, wow, it's a cycle. And so when we're working with others, we want to help them break the bonds, whether it's that kind of relationship or mental health or whatever the trauma is, to let them believe how awesome they were, because that's how they were made. And when we do that, we can become deeper in our purpose to the destiny that we were created. And so I know, usually, if I'm not mistaken, Gail lets us about 5 minutes for us to ask questions. And I'm going to do that in about 2 minutes. I'm going to end with something for you each. I put in the chat resources for you to take. But one is how you find your strengths in your own imperfection. Number one, accept yourself, no matter what. Now, I'm goofy. If I look at myself in the past, when I was in my 20s and fantastic shape because I was in the military, special forces, and I look at myself now, I'm like, I'm not that 20. No, I'm not 20. I'm 59. Come on now. Accept myself where I'm at. Honor yourself. Choose the way you want. Visualize yourself in your greatness. Visualize that you are even more beautiful, even more resilient, even more precious, and even more present. See yourself not broken. And when you're working with others, they're not broken. It's what's been put in the cracks. When you use this philosophy of kintsugi, the concept is you fill in the cracks with gold, and the gold into the porcelain was more precious than the porcelain fabric and material. And that's how we have to live our lives. And so I want to end with something here. And hopefully this poem will help you as we go through this. And I love this poem. It's 4 slides, very quick. See yourself as I read it. I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It still takes me a long time to get out. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it is there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I get out immediately. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. I walk down another street. That's the new story that you can give to yourselves and others. And in the chat that I gave you, there's these PDF files. You could take them all, but there's one on a life wheel. And I invite you to fill out that life wheel and you can use it. And I'll give you the process of how you do it really quick. It'll take me 30 seconds or less, and then we can go into a conversation. How you'll fill this out. You identify 8 areas of your life that you have a relationship. It could be money, work, health, children. You can't put all children in one. If you have 8 kids, 10 kids, you're going to have to get another life wheel, but each one individually. And you find in the center is 0, and the outer circumference of the first circular is 10. So somewhere in that slice of pie between 1 and 10, what's the reciprocity of that relationship that you're in? And then you color code it, and you can use this as a handout for others. It's nice to use color pencils or Crayolas. And then you identify all the areas of your life. Like for Gail, she's about to have a brand new grandchild. Well, it's kind of hard because the grandchild doesn't really know her yet. But down the road, when she retakes her wheel of life, her life satisfaction, man, maybe that baby's giving her a 10. But how much is she giving to the baby?
25.
25, okay. So then you choose one of those 8, and you say, I'm going to work on this one area starting now, and in 90 days, I'm going to redo my wheel of life and see what I did to make a change. And I hope that you take this, because the change is to walk down the same street. You see there's a deep hole in the sidewalk, but this time you walk around it and you walk down another street. The wheel of life is a new street. So let me pause. I know we've got a couple of minutes if there's any questions, and I'm here to serve you.
James, I just love this new story. That just speaks to what life is all about. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Do we have any last minute questions for Dr. Rodriguez?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. And the comment is, this was really powerful from beginning to end. It truly was eye-opening, and in such a little small amount of time. I was able to see so many different things, and I thank you and truly appreciated this. So thank you.
Awesome. I'm going to put my information. I appreciate that. If you need to get a hold of me or you want to go through one of our training classes or international conference, you can connect with me. If you want me to break down those scales that I put for you, I make myself available. So if there's anything else that I can help you with while we got a minute or two left, I'm free to do that.
I just want to say that this was absolutely amazing. It makes you think so much deeper than one would ever probably think. You had me in tears because unfortunately I lost my job in 2020. So I am really grieving horribly. And it made me think on a larger scale of what I'm doing to myself. The things that I'm not doing because I'm so enmeshed in grief. So I thank you for that.
I'm going to share something, if it's okay, if you give me permission, Gail, just for a second.
Go ahead.
Hopefully I can pull it up the right way. See this class right here? You go to this blog on our website, and maybe you do this or you find a class to do kintsugi. One of the ladies who took this class in June, now this was just October 31st, her husband had passed away, I think 4 or 5 weeks before the class. And they had been married for 40 plus years. Sometimes you have to put back the pieces together. Sometimes that depth of loss still has purpose. And for this beautiful lady, Camille, she came and gave me a big hug, and she's an elder, so it was okay that she tapped me pretty hard on the back of my head, but it was out of love, and said she wanted to be just in her pain, and that's fine. But the process helped her put it back together. So maybe you think about this and you go find a place for yourself in wherever you're at, or maybe you start your own. On our website, I even put the training program. You could do it yourself. You don't need me. You could go anywhere and find it. And it is probably one of the best healing techniques, even as a clinician, that I've ever come across. And I put it in the chat for you to go back and read. Okay.